welcome to my channel. So all we need to do is our measurement we need is the length of the skirt, which is 19 inches. Our waist is 37 inches and the hip measurement is 44 inches. So let's get measuring. So this can take, as you can see, it's already folded into two. As it's folded into two, I'm just about to cut out the front panel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure out my 19 inches from here down here. Then seam allowance, I'm going to leave like 2 inches seam allowance here. I'm going to create a big star so you can all see what I'm doing. Then that's the length of the skirt. Then we have our waist measurement, which is 7.5 inches plus 1.5 inches. So that will be 8.5 inches. Then we have our hip. Our hip measurement is 44 inches divided by 4. So that will give us 11 plus 1.5 inches. So that will be 12.5. So about the length of our hip from the waist is usually a standard measurement between 8 inches and 9 inches. So I'm going to use like 9 inches because 9 inches here. This is 9 inches here, the length, and we're going to measure out our the hip measurement, which is 11.5 plus seam allowance. 12.5, sorry, that's plus seam allowance. So this is it. So, and it depends on the person, whoever is depends on you yourself when you're making a skirt for yourself. So you decide how tight you want the leg area to be. Like mine, I like to either you reduce it by 1 inch, 2 inch, 1.5, or I like to reduce mine by 2 inches. So as you have 12.5 inches here, when you go down here, you minus 2 inches from there. So here minus 2 inches will be here. So I'm going to connect this. If you want, you can use ruler first. You can use your ruler. Then after using your ruler, I'm going to connect my trace out where all my measurement points are. We'll trace it out. So this is what it's looking like until we get here. So that's what it's looking like now. So and I'm going to use my French curve to curve it round to make it look more curved than you know what I mean, like when we finish making the skirt looks well curved in the body and fitting. So we have that. I hope you can all see clearly what I'm doing. Then I'll curve here as well to make it so when we are done with that, so we've got our curved skirt already. Then from here we're going to go up by 3/4 of an inch, just a little bit, because we want our cloth to be like when we put our skirt on, you will notice it's not straight, it's a bit slant in front and at the back. So that's why we are trying to get this. So when you're done tracing that, this is like you just create a straight line to join that curve. Then from there, let's remember that this was my waist, where my waist measurement was. So now I'm going to bring that down to meet here, where that 3/4 inch is. I'll bring it down to meet this point here. So that is it. And we are basically done with the front. So all we need to do now is we trace and cut out exactly what we need. While doing this, let's remember that we still need to cut out the dot. We're going to do that in a second. So we have this now. So we're going to cut out our dot. You can use your bust to bust measurement to get your dot. So my bust to bust measurement is 8 inches. So 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches. So from here, I'm going to measure down here, and that gives me, I'm going to measure down here, and this is where the point 4 inch is for our dot. So, and our dot is in front. The front is usually shorter than the back. The front dot is usually shorter than the back. So we're going to create like 4 inches in front and 5 inches at the back. Then as this dot is created now, I will leave like half an inch to sew it. Half an inch. Then you trace it. Why I'm doing this is because I get a lot of messages. Everyone is saying that, okay, my DIY is nice, but they need patterns. So that is why I'm making this, so it can be easier for those that want to use pattern. So we have our dot done here, and mind you, this is the front. We are yet to cut out the back, so I'm going to use this to cut out as a reference to cut out my back. So because this is the front, so I usually cut out just a little bit as a reference, so I'll be able to know where exactly the dot is meant to be. So just cut a little bit out. Yeah, then we use this as a reference to cut out the back. I'm going to use this. You leave this just to this space here for zipper allowance, if you can see what I mean. So I'm going to cut out the back block. So we're going to trace out as well the back. And let's not forget our dot. Our dot should be at the same point where the front one is. So all we need to do is at the same time create that little notch right where that front one is to create for the back, and use that as a reference to create the dots for the back. So having done that now, so we're going to create the dots for the front, and it's 5 inches I'm using for the back. 5 inches here. Then I'm going to use half an inch. I measure half an inch here and here, and create the long line and trace it. So this is how we get our dot. I hope this is this explains it a lot easier. And trace from where the dot is here all the way down, and after tracing from where the dot is, I will cut it, because I'm trying to create a slit. I want a bow at the end of the slit, and at the same time there will be a slit there. So I'm going to cut it out. See, that is the end of my dot. So the trick here is I'm going to cut out my dot from here, cut it out. Well, I'm going to leave the other one from the other side. I'll show you. Then I cut out the other dot from here as well. So this is what it's looking like. So for my dot now, I'm going to sew. I'm going to sew here. For this part of the skirt, I'm going to sew all the way here, and as well sew here. The easiest way for you to do this is just iron. Iron makes it easier and faster. Just iron and sew. So after ironing, when you're done ironing, you're going to sew it all the way down here. So meanwhile, I want to show you how I'm going to make my bow. So the measurement I need for my bow is, let's check this measurement. The measurement I need for my bow is, let's say 20 inches by 13.5 inches. So all I need is 19 inches by 12 inches and 1 inch on each side for seam allowance. So we're going to go ahead and mark out exactly what we need. 20 and 13.5 here. So I'm just going to trace it out so you understand what I'm doing. Because I don't want my bow to be straight, I'm going to make it a bit curved. So at the end of this, I'm going to slant the ends. Each side, the ends, to make a curve. So this is what we have here now. Please kindly ignore the background noise. My kids are playing in the background, and I'm actually due to upload a video since yesterday, but because I've been so busy I couldn't, so I just have to do it even with them around. So I'm going to cut out this big square. Cut out So please and please, before starting every project, make sure you iron your fabric. Like now, once I'm done with everything that I need, I'll go ahead and iron everything. It just makes it a lot easier, and it will make you see mistakes easily. So I've got my square. So what I'm going to do with my French curve is just curve here out, because I don't want it squared. I don't want my bow squared. So I just do this here. I just create a slant just to take out the rectangular shape. Then I'm going to cut it out. So from here as well, I'll cut out, and I'll cut out here as well. So this is what we have. So I'm going to fold it into two. I'm going to fold it into two and create that same curve on the sides from this end as well. Because this is the perfect size I want for my bow. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to cut it off. And I'm going to cut off here as well. So this is what we have now. So I'm going to turn it inside out. After ironing, when I turn it inside out, I'm going to sew it all round and leave like just 2 inch or an inch for me to be able to tuck it inside out. said earlier, guys, please don't forget to iron all your edges when ironing, before sewing. Like this one, this is my band, and it is measured 37 inches by length by 6 inches width. So, and unfold is 3 inches like this. So I'm going to, as I said earlier, it's a lot easier when you sew when you iron up your fabrics from inside. It makes your sewing a lot easier. You're able to see your mistakes very easily, and it just makes it look nice and presentable. So I'm going to go ahead and sew my bands, then add it to the skirt, and we'll be almost good as done. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Fold and sew. Back stitch first, please, before moving forward. If not, all your sewing will unravel. So, after having done that, after sewing all the sides, remember as I told you that ironing is one of your best friends. So when you're done and you tuck it in, remember to notch, I forgot to say, notch the sides to allow the clothes to be easy to be flexible from inside. So you tuck it out, and you see, you now hold it from where you've sewn already and where you've ironed, and it just comes out very beautifully. So this is what it's looking like now. I've sewn the inside of this side. This is one side of the band. Remember to notch and trim the edges. Then we'll tuck it out. After tucking it out, we'll fold it in. So that is how we're going to make our